murky bards and bardettes. Welcome back to I Cast Vicious Mockery. I'm Austin.
I'm confused.
And today, listen, I like the sound of a good dice roll.
It's so good.
Now, I'm not one for the ASMR. I'm really not. Like, I don't care much for it.
Doesn't do anything for me.
No. But the sound of dice rolls, oh, heck yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so good.
That's different than ASMR. That's the sound of the balance of success and failure.
Well, but it's not just those, because you know what really gets me? You know what my favorite sound category is? Skateboards.
Ooh, skateboards have a good sound. Yeah,
I could listen to skateboard videos all day. I don't want music over it. Like, get rid of that. I just want to hear somebody's board going. Ooh.
I had a dream last night that I was good at skateboarding. That was fun.
What'd you do? What happened? How did this occur?
Oh, well, when I was younger, I was afraid of skateboards because I was afraid of hurting myself.
Right.
And, you can't skateboard without injuring yourself in some ways. So I never did it. But now that I'm older, I wish I had because it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to know. I've only ridden a skateboard really once. It was like a penny board. It was in Florida. And it was fun. I mean, I just flat surface. I mean, I didn't do anything interesting, but it was fun.
I've ridden a longboard a couple times, like just learning it. Also,
sure. Yeah.
Also on a vacation.
Well, there you
go. But it's just because I was there with my sister and she brought it. You know what I noticed is that actually within the last year, my fear of getting hurt has diminished greatly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Because I think that as you get older, well, some people never really have the fear of getting hurt, really, maybe. But I think that when you get older, you just realize that it's not so bad.
Maybe. I honestly think that most people go the other way around, though. I think that they take less risks overall, and that my risk tolerance has gone up, and that's a little alarming to me.
Well, my risk tolerance has definitely gone up. I've taken more risks in the past 7 months than I have, I think, in my entire life previous.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great because it ties into what we're talking about today.
Cool. Let's do it.
Like it does a lot. So I wanted a show topic. I wanted this particular show topic because I thought this.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we roll dice in D&D and in general? Like, what's the purpose of all this?
Gambling.
Maybe a little bit. We'll get to there. We'll get to some gambling stuff.
Yeah.
And we're not actually going to gamble on this. We're not going to gamble. I mean, I still don't like gambling, even though I have a higher tolerance for risk. It's you know what I noticed? Gambling is not about tolerating risk. It's about anticipating a huge reward, I think.
Well, yeah.
Like now I want to skateboard, I want to surf and do crazy stuff that could be dangerous. But like I don't get all jazzed from like, oh, I could win a jackpot.
No, doesn't do anything for me either.
Yeah.
For some people though, it's a big deal. There's a guy that goes into the place that I work. There's a lottery machine there. Mm-hmm. He comes in there every day. Every day.
Wow.
He plays the lottery machine.
Jeez. Is it a $5 ticket?
Oh, he gets more than one every day.
Oh my God. How do you afford that?
I know. And you know what? Whenever he wins any money, which he rarely does.
Yeah. Does he immediately spend it on drinks?
He immediately spends it on cigarettes.
Cigarettes?
Yes.
Interesting.
I know.
Why doesn't he just buy cigarettes?
I've asked myself that question before.
Both smoking and gambling. So
right, exactly.
He's got to get both fixes. It's just a very expensive way to go. But if you are addicted to gambling and smoking, I guess that is the most logical thing to do with the money.
Gamble until you win enough that you can get cigarettes.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Uh, Even though you've lost 3 or 4 times as much as you're
Yep.
spending on the cigarettes.
Yeah, that you spent on your gambling addiction, and then you spend the rest on the cigarettes. But it's cheaper than first spending that same amount on cigarettes and then spending,
That
money
am
on gambling.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know.
Anyway, I also don't understand. Actually, I have a coworker at my other job who said that she used to work at the casino. Uh,
I have one too.
really?
Yeah.
Um, and she said that she has seen people not leave for like weeks at a time. They will be in there and they will not leave. They won't shower. They'll eat the food in the casino.
Oh, no.
They'll pick people's discarded like tickets out of bins and off the floor and stuff to see if they win. They'll just go around and like try to find a winning ticket. Apparently they get phone calls at the casino all the time like,
Hey, do you know
"Hey,
where
is
this per
my husband
Oh,
there?"
no.
or "Is my dad there?"
Oh, no. Big no.
Yeah,
Oh,
bad stuff.
yeah. I've
Bad
heard that
stuff.
it's a depressing place.
I
Um,
I have no desire to go there
yeah.
personally.
Well, I've heard that other casinos can be, like, nice and fun and inviting and stuff, but, like, in particular, the one here
Yeah,
is mm-mm.
yeah, we have one casino
Mhm.
where we live. I've never been in it. Actually, uh,
I've been to the racetrack behind it, and I've been in, one part of it,
the
which wasn't bad.
a
It was like a cafeteria part.
mutual friend of ours, his dad used to work security at the casino because state police apparently
Oh, yep, they would.
uh, protect casinos or something. I don't know. I don't know. There's something about the state police and casinos. But yeah, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but it doesn't really matter too much. I think he listens to the show, so he'll probably know that I'm talking about him. Anyway, so
Well,
yeah, randomness,
yeah,
rolling
that
dice.
that's how I got thinking about it, though. Like, why doesn't my sword just deal 6 damage?
There is a way to play D&D like that.
There totally is, and
Hmm.
we can get to that, but
Hmm.
I wanna know, what do you think as just what's your initial, your feeling? Like, why is it that they chose dice? You know what? I probably should have researched exactly why for D&D they chose the things that they chose. There's probably a lot of information about that,
Probably.
but I didn't. I only researched other stuff, so it's whatever.
Well, to me, so that's what it's the same thing as gambling. Like people, they'll in general, well, maybe it's not because you're planning on spending the money anyway when you're gambling.
Hmm.
Like, you're putting in $5
Yep.
and you're hoping to get a reward. So if you don't get one, it's almost like that's kind of neutral. And then when you do get one, that's the big, like, oh, yes.
Hmm.
But I guess people don't play D&D like that. When you roll the dice, you're expecting a good thing. And then if it doesn't work
Or at
out,
least average.
or yeah, yeah, or at least the normal
That's
thing.
part of it too. We're gonna get to that. If we can get to anything, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, so like if I didn't know what D&D was, if I didn't know anything about it,
Hmm.
I would probably guess that that's not fun. But I think it but I think it is fun.
Well, it is fun. It is fun
Mhm.
either way, though. I think that there are both options, both types of games can be fun. Because what I've seen is you've got I guess deterministic systems and non-deterministic. If you're listening to this and you haven't done computer science in college, or I mean, there are other people who talk about determinism and stuff like that. That's sort of a philosophy thing too.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. Mhm.
so you might have picked it up there, but basically, deterministic means that what has happened determines what can or will happen next. Basically, you can
Hmm.
predict if you know the past, you can predict the future accurately. Non-deterministic means that if you know the past, you might even if you can predict the future to some degree of accuracy, there is some inaccuracy. So there are games that are more or less deterministic. Let's go for some examples.
Okay.
I want to talk about like a highly random game is going to be non-deterministic.
Hmm.
A highly deterministic game is not random. I wish I could have come up with a way to say that that was more parallel. But anyway,
Well, let's get some examples, I guess.
yes.
Yeah.
Can you think of any? Because I thought of some, but can you think of any highly random games first?
Highly random.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, highly random.
Yep.
Would you consider Monopoly to be highly random? I guess not really. I mean, it's pretty random,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if it's highly random.
It's
Oh,
up there.
yeah. Well, something like Candyland is like completely random
Yep. There you go.
because you just roll the dice and then you move the piece that much and that's
Yeah.
it.
So the most random games are things like Candyland, like
Yeah.
War,
War.
the
Yep.
card game,
Yep. War is
which
completely
is
random.
actually just a prolonged coin flip.
Right.
Right? That's
Exact.
all it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Although I did actually come up with some other rules for War, like when there's a challenge
Hmm.
thing, you like determine how many cards you should put down. It still actually isn't strategy though. It's still random
It's
because
still
you can't tell what
because you
your
don't
cards are.
know
There's
what.
no
Well,
input.
in War, you do know what you could remember what order the card unless you shuffle between every
Oh well, yeah, you could
one.
remember the order of the cards, but then you. Oh well, yeah, no. You'd have to shuffle them between each round.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so. War is just going to be random. Um, rock paper scissors is up in that category. Technically, there could be strategy.
There could be, but that gets into
Technically,
like psychological stuff. That's really only because you're playing against another person and they get to determine what they do.
hmm
That's really
right.
that's
Um,
really all the only reason.
yeah, exactly. And they'll try to come up with things, based on what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, then there's stuff like poker, which is pretty random. Um, and what people like about poker
Hmm.
is they try to account for the randomness and just edge out their competition.
Right. Right.
And as long as they do that, then they're winning. Um, so that's what people like that about certain games. Um, now a game that's low randomness, what you got that's super low.
Well, chess is really not random at all.
Exactly. You know what's going to happen when you move a piece and it touches another piece. Like you get there's no like, oh, but it could be different.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's always the same.
Right.
Yeah. Every time.
Right.
And then in that same vein, things like checkers,
hmm
uh, Go,
Right.
um, backgammon,
Yep. So
all stuff like
all
that.
those things. Here's some other stuff that I thought of.
Hmm.
Here are some video games.
Hmm.
Mario One, the first Super Mario Bros. Right. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
there
Okay.
is, I think, some randomness with the Lakitus and the shoot. What else? The Cheap Cheeps might come up in slightly random positions. I don't remember if they do or not.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
most of that game is exactly like it just is how it is. And it's funny because some things like when you bump your head up on the block and a mushroom comes out and it starts going either left or right and you don't know which way it's going to go. Well, actually, that is determined by where you hit the block. It's just as a brand new player, you can't tell that.
Right.
And so it feels like it just goes one way
It
and it
just
just picked it.
yeah, it just goes
Um,
somewhere. Yeah.
and that's kind of a fun take on randomness where with enough trial and error and enough like study, you could figure out where the randomness came from. That's sort of a feature of video games more
Mhm.
uniquely,
Yeah.
is they can draw from a lot of different numbers, a lot of different things behind the scenes to pick something that looks random. In fact, actually, people do with the Pokemon games. They do manipulation on the random number generators for their speedruns.
Of course, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I've seen that in a lot of speed runs.
mhm. And for things like hunting shiny Pokemon too.
Mhm.
So cool,
And
fun stuff.
that's a big joke in the speedrunning community when they wanna do something that's doesn't slow them down but is fun, and they do it, and then they say that it's for or when that in GDQ, that's a big thing they say when they make a mistake.
Mhm.
They're like, "That was to create R that was to manipulate the RNG of the"
Now, some
Yeah.
medium randomness games. I'm going to give you some medium ones.
Okay.
One,
Mhm.
D&D.
Yep.
It's medium randomness. I'm
Yeah,
going to say it's like somewhere in the middle,
I would agree.
maybe right in the middle. Minecraft, medium randomness,
Mhm.
but very different kinds of medium randomness,
Mhm.
right? Like, so now we got to talk about this. What is different about the way that Minecraft does random and the way that D&D does random?
Okay. Um, well, okay, so Minecraft,
Hmm.
the world becomes built
Right.
when you start,
Yep.
a server open
Yep.
or,
You're
start a
exactly
world.
where I think. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas with D&D, it can be like that, but
Right.
more likely the world is built as the characters explore it.
Yep. Well, that's part of it. And actually, I guess technically Minecraft
Minecraft
does
is
that
sort of like
too,
that
but
too, yeah,
it
but
follows a pre-generation algorithm where like basically the whole thing is planned out.
right.
And your exploration of the world
Mhm.
doesn't determine how it's shaped, like how it's built, just which parts are revealed to you.
Right, because
And that could happen a little bit in D&D.
it can, yeah.
Um
Mhm.
it can be like that, but usually like the players have a lot more input on that stuff. But there is another aspect to it. The
Mhm.
controls in Minecraft are mostly not random.
Yes.
If you click on a block for a certain amount of time, it breaks. If you click on a monster with a sword in your hand, it slices. Um, and it does a certain amount of damage. And eventually they die at a certain amount of hit points.
Okay.
Um,
I see where you're going with
there
this.
is some randomness in the controls when you try to shoot an arrow, but for the most part, it's all the same every time.
Mhm.
When you use your D&D character's abilities, it is not like that. You're
No.
never sure exactly what's going to happen because anytime the DM could say, actually, I think you should roll for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, exactly, and then and sometimes they might not.
Hmm.
I guess you don't know always, but,
And now that's the difference between what they call input and output randomness. The input
mhm,
randomness is like the hand of cards that you get in Yu-Gi-Oh. That's input randomness, right? Like you don't know what you'll end up with. I think that's technically I don't know. Maybe I got my terms mixed up here, but it's like
okay.
a type of randomness that you react to.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Then
Mhm,
there's output randomness, a type of randomness that is uh, created when you take an action. So it's like
oh, okay, you
you
do
try to do something and you
something
don't know what's going
and
to
you don't know
happen.
what's gonna happen.
Right.
Okay, yeah, and D&D
Um,
almost has both. Well, it doesn't
and
really
people
have
have
both.
super hot takes on what randomness is good or bad or what. Uh, I'm
Mm,
not going to say I'm capable of determining
ah,
what's the best. And it's, I think there are better things. Like there are ones that are good for different types of games. Because I think,
yeah,
like Minecraft, what's beautiful about it, what people love about it is that you can explore this whole world and you never know what you're going to run into. I mean, yeah, some of the features start to look a little bit samey and whatever, but then you come across this cliff with like a floating island above it, and you're like, what the heck? This is not a real landform. And it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's yeah, it's great.
Um,
Mhm.
then I think, but D&D then, what makes it the output randomness fun? Because in a video game, output randomness is generally not considered fun.
No, no, in fact, yeah, they've pretty much completely got rid of that in video games.
Yes.
You see it more so in, like there are some JRPGs,
Mhm.
um,
Well, that's the thing. It's RPG stuff, right?
yeah, RP well, there you go, role-playing games. But even in, like, RPG video games,
Hmm.
people don't like that usually.
Right. Yeah. Well, they want their damage to be as close to the average as possible, almost.
Yeah,
They're banking on this much They like if they miss an attack that they hate it. Stuff like that.
in fact, the way video games do that because people don't really think logically,
Hmm.
and people don't understand probability
Right.
at all, really. And
Even people who intellectually know how
right,
probability works
exactly.
feel that like their experience of probability does not match the reality of it.
Right. So like in Fallout, for example, which is an RPG,
Hmm.
like you go into VATS and it says if it says you have a 90% chance to hit their head with that bullet,
Hmm.
if it doesn't hit, people will get mad about that
Right.
because they're like, I had a 90%
90%.
chance.
That's basically a guarantee.
Right, exactly. So how it works in Fallout in a lot of games like that is if it says 90% chance, that's actually 100% chance
Hmm.
because that's how it feels to people.
Yep.
And they do it more like that
And
than
sometimes
anything.
they skew it both ways, where like if it says 90% chance to hit, it's 100%, and if it says 30%, it's zero. And sometimes they skew it all one way, where 30% chance to hit is really 50%.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. Yes, and I've seen that too, and
and
I've heard about that too.
other games don't skew it. It's just different depending on which one's which.
Right, a 99% chance still gives leaves room for failure.
Hmm.
Like you could fail at a 99% chance.
Then there are the ones that don't show you the numbers, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but I think here's an example of output randomness in a game that people don't like, which would be machine guns in Halo.
Okay.
Um, like in the original couple of Halos, maybe one, two, maybe three, um, everybody used the sniper rifle because
Yes.
it basically was an exact perfect laser that shot it right where you were aiming.
Yep.
And the other
Mhm.
guns you couldn't reliably get headshots with, especially from a distance, but even up close because they would spray. They don't shoot completely straight every single time. Um, and people, when it comes down to one shot, which is what a headshot, it's a one shot kill.
Uh-huh.
Um, you had to use the one that was going to give you that one shot kill.
Mhm.
And so in some games it ends up being that faster weapons are better. In Halo it ended up being that the best weapon was the sniper rifle, as far as I know.
You
And
know,
even if it wasn't Halo, it was some game.
yeah, I've heard that same thing
Yeah.
though. I've heard that
Yeah,
same
it
thing.
was
Yeah.
just something that I remembered as I was thinking about this. Now in D&D you can adjust the randomness of stuff, actually, if you'd like, because you could do whatever you want with the rules, they're yours.
Yes,
um,
you can.
So you
Yeah.
can adjust the randomness if you like, but let's talk about how you might go about doing that. Because one thing is,
Mhm.
more experienced players often think more strategically in battle,
Yes.
and a lot of the time they actually prefer more consistent damage over a wide range of damage. Uh, Basically, they get mad when they set up everything perfectly. Their fireball hits and it does like two damage,
Right.
right?
They
Like,
get like a bunch of ones when they roll the damage. Yeah.
yeah. So you could adjust attack damage and accuracy. Um,
Mhm.
but well, okay, let's look at them as one thing or the other. So the damage one, if you adjust it so it's less of a range, it could make the game more strategic. If you make more of a range, you could do fun stuff where, for an example that I saw online, a monster who, I guess in D&D, what do they call it? Creature, whatever. The monster's got like 70 hit points,
Okay.
regenerates all of its hit points every round. All right, let's say
Okay.
that that's the case.
Sure.
You have a spell that does between 20 and 40 damage, and then you have one that does between 0 and 70. You have to use the 0 and 70 stuff. That's the only way you can beat it in one turn, and you have to get lucky and roll a big amount. So now you have to. The battle is about staying alive enough turns and making sure you have enough spell slots to hopefully take this thing out.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, I
You
see
know.
what you're saying there. Mhm.
So basically, there are certain situations where a more highly random weapon would be a better thing, and so that could be a fun way to do stuff is to plan around those things.
Mhm. I like high risk, high reward stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it fun because in D&D, to me, I always think of it, it's a game, right?
Right.
So when I was a kid
Mm-hmm.
and I would play Kingdom Hearts, I would stay on a level and I would run around and beat up those heartless
Right.
with my keyblade until I was at least 2 or 3 levels above the suggested level for whatever part I was on. Because I felt like like dying in the game
Mm-hmm.
was the worst thing that could happen.
Right.
So I think there are some people that feel that way about D&D,
Absolutely.
especially since you're playing this character,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of people feel that connection to it. I really like all the characters that I play, but I almost feel like the opposite now. Not that I want my character to die, but just that like I want to do that risky stuff because the risky stuff gets you it's cool either way,
Mm-hmm.
or it's interesting either way.
Yes.
Whether it succeeds or fails, something is going to happen and it's going to be a good story.
So that's what it comes down to in D&D, isn't it? When
Mhm.
like what why even have players, right? If you're the DM,
Okay,
why would you even want players when you're telling a story? You could just write a story.
you could.
But you have players because you don't know what they're going to do
Right.
and you want them to surprise you.
Right. And the randomness on the DM side is what are these guys going to do?
Yeah. For a player to
Mhm.
surprise the DM, though, the players also need to be surprised sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Like
Uh-huh.
if something happens that you didn't expect and now you have to react to it, that is what creates the um, sort of improvisational backdrop of D&D that lets you do all the fun storytelling stuff where you just have to figure it out.
Just have to figure it
You
out.
just have to figure it out. So yeah, you could get rid of dice rolls in D&D and it'd be fine. It wouldn't be better though because the idea of it is not it's not a strategy game. In a strategy game, think of something like chess. Chess is
Mhm.
the strategy game.
Yeah.
Um, in a strategy game like that, you know exactly what's going to happen each round because the movements are all like every piece moves the same way every time. Like there's no variance to like, oh, but this time because I rolled the dice this way. Now my knight can move in this. No, it's always the same.
That could be fun.
It could be. It's well. Here's where the problem is though with
Uh-huh.
chess. If you are playing against a supercomputer who's good at chess, it's maybe never fun.
No, I mean you'll always lose.
Yeah,
I think it's to the point now where people can't beat computers at chess.
yeah. Chess, no. They because they can fully. they can't fully calculate out a game, but they can do it well enough that I don't think, yeah, I think an average computer
Well,
can beat a
oh
can
yeah,
beat it the most skilled people.
yes. No matter how good humans get at chess, computers are now better
Mhm.
every
In
time.
fact, a lot of chess competition nowadays and training, instead of, well, they still study other chess players and things like that, but they actually study computers and they play against them and they try to play like the computers do against them. So that
Oh,
it
interesting.
used to be that they would focus on mental, like mind versus mind strategies to overcome the other person in chess. Now it's like focusing on how close can I be to the computer.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. And it,
But that's the other thing about those games.
yeah.
Any type of pure strategy game is that, well, computers are always going to be better at it than you.
Yes.
So it's about being good or bad at the game. If somebody is significantly better than you, they'll crush you every time. And if someone's significantly worse than you, they're not going to present any kind of fun challenge. So what it comes down to there is matching people up.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think that's another strength of D&D though, is that cuz you I don't know how who has the advantage here? The five players who have to communicate their strategy to each other without telling the DM what's going on, or the dungeon master who has to strategize against five individual minds and figure out what they're all doing and take them all out. I don't know who has the advantage there, but because of the added randomness too, I think it's pretty even.
Yeah, the randomness definitely helps. There is something to say too, um, being a dungeon master so much, it's hard to keep track of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's easy to forget. Strategizing is way harder, I think, for the
Today I was
DM.
running a campaign.
Yeah.
I was controlling one monster
Uh-huh.
and fighting like five guys, maybe at most.
Okay.
The monster was holding a spear the whole time, and I forgot for like 6 rounds.
Nice.
And then I was like, oh shoot, it has a spear. The spear wasn't its best attack or anything, but it had one.
Yeah, yeah, I do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, if you haven't noticed, I haven't been having the NPCs do a lot of fighting recently because I don't want to have to think about what they can do against the monster that I'm trying to run as well.
Yeah,
But
well, that's especially like you don't want to run like DM controlled PCs in a fight. Like I don't want to either. I don't like that. It's just like
I will, but
yeah.
I don't like to,
Hmm.
and I will take every reason that I can not to.
Now one here. Oh, you know what? Here's a good way of handling that real quick.
Okay, yeah. Side note.
Let's say your DM PC. Oh, you know what? No, not even that. I was gonna say like they're a healer, and a player can go up to them on the player's own turn and request healing. That's the player's action. But what about just any action that NPC can take? The player can be like, "Hey, can you do this?" And they do it.
Oh, and you like go around the table. I mean, it might not last that
No,
many
you
rounds. Or
well, no, you
oh,
just like when it's the player's turn, they can just request that the instead of doing their thing, they could just request that the other non-playable character does something instead. Like I use my action
hmm.
to she heals me, or I use my action to she slices.
That would require the characters to know everything that the
Yeah, so you give them
piece
like one or two abilities,
NPCs can do.
and then limit how often they can use them or something.
I've mentioned this before, but I don't like the idea of DMPCs. I want to make it really clear that Ember is not a DMPC.
No, yeah,
She's there because you guys asked her to, well, not you in
well, exactly,
particular, but because you guys asked her to be
exactly.
there.
So yeah, yeah, I think maybe the players should be
But
in charge of
yeah,
utilizing her as well.
that no, that's
That's
yeah.
My brain's growing, guys. It's not going to fit in my pants very long.
Yep. His brain's getting too big for your
It's getting
pants.
way too big for my pants. They're all tight. All right. You know what? I want to see if I missed anything here.
Okay. He has notes today, by the way.
Yeah,
What
man, I went all
man?
out.
Oh,
Um,
we're so professional now.
yeah. No, so the randomness is something I think is like a part of D&D to the extent like that I think if you removed it, you could have a more strategic combat experience that would be very rewarding for some people. And that might be the exact game somebody would want. I don't think it would have the widespread appeal of D&D.
Yeah, to me, an RPG without like dice and randomness is basically like when you were a kid and the other kid pulls out a pretend gun and shoots you, and they're like, "You're dead now," and then you're like, "No, I'm not. I dodged it." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because how do you determine anything?
Right?
Like, it's not about because then it's not about skill. Because like with a video game, you're controlling inputs,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a skill involved with being able to do them correctly and in the way that will do damage and to evade damage and things like that. But in like a tabletop role playing game,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could make it skill based in some way,
It's story based.
but it's story based. Exactly.
It's not about who's the biggest baddest D&D player. It's about what you come up with and how you react to the situations that you get yourself into.
right, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think RPGs without dice is just pretend, which is fine if you want to just play pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, yeah, I guess there's that way of going with it where yeah, it's just like all right, well, what would yeah, I guess you're trying to pretend and you're saying, well, what would happen here? Like logically if I swung my sword at you, how much would it hurt you? I guess
you're,
is that what you're because that's what
yeah.
you'd have to do.
Well, exactly. Well, with combat in particular, but even non-combat situations,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how do you determine things? Um, without like, that's what the dice are, and and the whole system with modifiers and stuff. That's why there's all those extra numbers,
Mm-hmm.
because y- yeah, it's reasonable to assume that the sneaky guy with the lock picks knows how to use the lock picks
Mm-hmm.
and that he can open doors with them. Um, and you might not even have to roll every time. I mean, if the
Right?
DC is low enough, like, yeah, he picks the lock. I mean, he knows how to. Why not?
Yep.
Uh, but then, like, is it just that he can definitely open every lock? Is that the thing, or like, how else? Like, how else do you know?
Well, I mean, it could just have, a set in like each door could have a set in stone DC, and
But then,
his lockpicking ability could be instead of like a +2 for dexterity,
mm,
you have 12. Your dexterity is 12. That's
so
not. I know that's not how the math adds up here,
right,
but your dexterity is 12, and any door that's less than a 12, you can just open, and any door that's a 13 or higher, you cannot open.
right, exactly. But that's frustrating in its own right because then, like, who determines that number?
Mm-hmm.
The DM. But then, how could you not be biased about it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to get in this door. It's going to be 13 or higher. I do want them to get in this door. It's going to be 12 or, you know what I mean?
Yep. But
Um,
that's also how you. I mean, you look at like a Zelda game and how it guides you through a dungeon.
right.
Um, there could be some more of that in D&D, maybe. But yeah, so I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm like trying to be on that side of it.
Right,
But
right. I understand. I understand. I'm just, I don't know. I can't see how, I mean, there's probably another way to do it that would be fun,
mhm.
but I don't think it can just
you,
be,
you know what's the thing you should check out?
it is what it
And
is.
by you, I mean everybody,
Yeah.
is Draga.
Draga?
Yeah, do you remember watching that a while back? It's the role playing
Yes.
game that they were playing where they had to draw out things instead of making dice rolls.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
they took an action and they would just draw it. There was some kind of dice rolling involved, sort of,
Yeah.
but essentially it was based on what they drew. Like if they could draw it, then they could do it.
And I'm thinking you could do it with playing cards.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, obviously that's another form of
Hmm.
randomness, but yeah, yeah, like, you know, there are certain actions that are ones or twos or threes or fours, all the way up to maybe there's a joker actions where you can only like do it if you draw the joker.
Hmm.
Um, and then you could use a number that's higher than the one that you need, but you can't use a lower one.
Yep.
I mean,
And then even that too, then you might run out of cards and not run out of doors, or that sort of thing. That could be fun. Like you have to just try to determine where you should use your big special strong card and where you should use your weak little lame card and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there are, so dice are not necessarily essential to play a tabletop RPG, I think,
Hmm.
but there does have to be something
It has to be. It's a story
to
and
determine.
spice in her. That's the
Yeah,
thing that adds spice to something, and spice in her.
it's a spiciner. Yeah, you
No,
got it.
and spice in her.
And
Yeah, it inserts the
it's
spice. So it
oh, okay.
like I'm
It's
saying
an
like
in spiciner,
no, and spice in her.
an end spiciner. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
what I said.
No, you said in spice in her.
No, it's an end
It's almost the
spiciner.
same in the Erie accent. I get it, but
Pin pen,
yeah. Anyway,
pin pen.
yeah, you got any homebrew in there?
I sure do. This is an interesting one. It's a soul candle.
Oh, so wait,
This
let me before you
okay.
go on.
Yeah.
Is it
Mhm.
a candle for your feet or a candle from South Korea?
Neither.
Yes, I knew I'd get it.
um okay, so this I like stuff like this. This is cool. So, as an action, this is an artifact.
Hmm.
Except they spelled artifact wrong. I'm not trying to call them out or anything, but uh monkey underscore DM, you spelled artifact wrong.
No, I think it's right.
No, it's with an I.
I think it's E.
Artifact. It's with
I
an
think
I.
it's artifact. Yeah, we'll look it up later.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
maybe it's already. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's with an I. Anyway, regardless of their spelling is not important. What their item does is cool. I'm sorry, monkey underscore DM. I didn't mean to judge you. It's fine. You can spell artifact however you want. I understand what it says. I know what it means. It's okay.
You
Um,
probably spelled it
as an action,
right.
you can spend a charge. So the candle has 10 charges, and as an action, you can spend a charge to light the candle on fire. It consumes another charge every round that it
Hmm.
is lit.
Okay.
So you spend a charge as an action, and then every round after that, it expends a charge while it's lit. Um, if all charges are expended, then it is extinguished. You can also extinguish it early as a bonus action. But while it's lit, you are under the effect of the haste spell. You do not have to concentrate on it. Your weapon attacks deal an extra 1d8 fire damage. And daily at dawn, the candle regains 10 charges. However, it is cursed. The candle extinguishes your life force as it burns. So you magically age a number of years equal to the number of rounds the candle was lit.
Okay. And I would think then that the all the classes that give you or subclasses that give you the effects where aging, like you can no longer be aged magically or normally,
Mhm.
that would
That
apply here.
Yeah, that would negate the effect, I imagine.
Hmm.
I don't know actually the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is um, arch druids, like a level 20 druid. They no longer age,
I think
but
way of the long hand, way of the long
that's a monk
that
thing.
that monk one though. There's a paladin that doesn't age as
Oh, the
well.
clockwork soul paladin? No, that's sorry,
No,
that's a
it's
sorcerer thing.
mm, devotion maybe. No, I don't remember. I read it today. It's one of them, but there are 10 of them, so I forgot.
There's a lot of subclasses out there.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So if you can't be so the curse basically doesn't even matter at that point.
yeah, and there are certain creatures that don't age, like a warforged. I think doesn't age.
They technically don't age. But
I mean, they get older, but they
right,
don't like
exactly.
how they don't like nothing happens organically to make them. They don't fall apart because they're 70 years old
Yeah,
or 30 if you're an Aarakocra. Sorry,
not
it
necessarily.
would suck to be an Aarakocra under
Well,
the effect of that, dude.
or a turtle. They only live to be like 50 or
What?
30,
What?
40, 40, 50.
What?
Yeah, Marty's middle aged, but
But a tortoise is an edible doe for its long lifespan.
yeah, I know.
Why is a turtle a short lifespan?
I don't know, but when he made the character, he was like, I want him to be like middle aged. And then when we looked up like the average lifespan of a turtle, he was like, huh, middle aged is like 30.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
funny.
so disappointed in you, D&D. Don't play this dumb game, kids. Don't play it.
But turtles are
They'll only
modeled
let you down.
after not tortoises. Well,
They
I,
are. Or are they modeled after turtles? Turtles live for a long time too, though.
well,
Very long time.
well, that's true too. I'm only 50, man. uh, right? Is that what he said? Is that how old Crush was?
I think he was 150.
Oh, 150?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that doesn't seem right. No,
That
no, no.
turtles don't
Maybe
live
he
that
said that
long.
they live to be 150.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was only 50.
Hmm. He's got a long life ahead of him.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
That was kind of a short one. There really wasn't much else to
All
say
the other
about it.
characters in that show would be dead now.
Oh, oh yeah.
Or that movie, I mean. But you know what I'm talking about.
Um, I mean, for sure. Fish don't live very long at all.
Yeah, not in the wild.
No, especially well, yeah, they'd probably all
But
be
also
eaten.
not in captivity. They're like a really finicky animal.
You know, I
Finicky
learned
class of animal.
they're
You know?
they're
They're a whole deal.
I learned something interesting about great white sharks.
Okay, I'll get you with whale sharks right after.
Okay, so great white sharks, you'll never find one in an aquarium
Oh, yep.
because they are nomadic by nature and will in captivity they will completely shut down. They won't they've been known. I think the longest that a great white shark has lasted in captivity was like a month and a half because they just stop eating because they can't stand
Hmm.
being in one place and there are no tanks that are big enough. Like the
There can't be a tank that's big enough because they need an ocean.
right, exactly, exactly. So yeah, great white sharks don't you will not find one in an aquarium. They cannot be kept there. They will literally stop eating and starve to death
Mhm.
no matter how much food you give them in captivity, just because they can't live like that.
Mhm.
All right, whale sharks.
All right, this is a little bit more happy.
Okay, cool.
They've figured out how old whale sharks are and live to be.
Meaning, like, how long they've been around?
No, how long in they've measured the age of individual whale sharks,
Okay, gotcha.
and they've done it like they extract a core sample from like its vertebrae. I know that they're all cartilage, but they have growth rings in their
Oh,
spines
like a tree.
like a tree.
Uh-huh.
And for the longest time, we just couldn't figure out, do each of these growth rings count for 6 months or a year or what?
Okay.
They figured it out because there is a higher level of carbon 14 in a lot of aquatic life because, or at certain times when there was nuclear testing done,
Oh, yep.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So there are many whale sharks who were alive during that time, it turns out, because they found out the growth rings, they used like basically carbon dating on them,
Yeah.
and found growth rings with higher levels of carbon 14. Um, and they found that the growth rings are, in fact, each 1 year, a whole year.
Wow.
So they found that whale sharks live to be about 60.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
nice.
that's like yeah.
You don't want to think about whale sharks dying, so
Yeah, then that's a
them living
nice
to 60, that's good.
that's not a bad life. I mean,
Yeah, like you could be an adult human and get a whale shark as a pet, and it would die around when you do, like a brand newborn whale shark.
can you get whale sharks as pets? I don't
No,
think so.
they have those in aquariums though.
Apparently apparently you can't, um I was thinking, I was like, "You know what would be a cool hobby to get into? Falconry." Nope, not a cool hobby to get into because it's expensive, and
Oh,
you
really?
can't even get you can't, first of all, you can't get a pet falcon. Like, you can't buy one.
Hmm.
The only way to get a pet falcon is you have to go through special training, you have to get a special license, and you have to have worked with the falcon for a certain number of years to be able to,
Like take it home.
like, take it home and, do that.
And even then, it's not a pet. It is. By the way, a killing machine.
Right, it's like a, yeah, almost like a companion. It's like a
Yeah,
familiar
yeah,
almost, basically.
yeah. It's not like a cute like, hey, high five, buddy, and it like high fives you. It's like you keep it in its hood most of the time, and then when you take it off, it's like,
Seek and destroy.
I will destroy that. I promise to bring you its corpse.
Right.
Something like that, I think.
Well, I had wondered to myself, I wonder why more people don't have falcons as pets. That seems like a cool pet. That's why you can't.
Yeah, it's just not a. Well, I don't know. Are they even? Are they even? That's what I always worry about. Like even with my own dog, I worry if she's even happy with the small amount of freedom that she has. You know what I mean? Like,
She's happy whenever I'm here.
yeah, she is. She's happy whenever there are people here, but you especially.
She really likes me.
Yep,
It's because I pet her.
yep. That's pretty much what she wants in life.
Yep. I'm happy to give it to her. I like dogs. You know what? Cats are growing on me. I've lived with Dova, Colin's cat, for like, gosh, over like a month and a half now. He's all right. He's only bit me a couple times.
He's not a particularly nice cat.
He has his moments. Honestly, I thought that he was more ornery in general, but actually he's usually pretty relaxed, and he likes to play. And then every once in a while he just gets mad and wants to bite you. But it's, I don't know. I don't understand why it happens. And like
I
he'll,
think that cats are less deterministic than dogs.
well, that's probably true.
Like you do the same behaviors to a dog and they react pretty much the same every time.
Yeah.
You do it to a cat and they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, pet me again like that." And then the next time you do it, they're like, "No. No, what?
What do you why'd you think that was
Oh,
cool?
gross." Yeah.
I hate you. I remember Colin told me like, "Oh, he likes to be pet right here," and like showed me. And then like a different day, like some other time, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll try it." And he literally bit me because I touched him there, and I was
Yep.
like, "All right, well,
Yep.
I guess you don't like it when I do it."
Yeah, and you know what? They might not even be non-deterministic. It's just that there are so many inputs and outputs, and we don't understand what's going on in their dumb little cat brains.
He's weird, man. He's a weird cat. I don't get it. I don't get it. I think what really allowed me though to be okay with cats is my dad has a cat, Bella, and she is literally the nicest cat I've ever met. I she doesn't get angry. She doesn't even get angry when one of the dogs comes up and like sniffs her and tries to lick her. She's just like ugh, ugh, ugh. And she like walks away and she's like, "Get away from me." Yeah. Anyway, I used to actively dislike cats. I would say now I'm kind of neutral.
Hmm. I always feel like I like to meet a cat, but like I don't want to hang out with them the way that you like to take a dog for a walk and just kind of see what they do, and it's fun. Uh, I
That's for
don't
sure.
I don't know if it's the same with a cat. Like usually what they do isn't very fun. Every once in a while, they they're
The,
just kind of lazy a lot.
well, yeah,
I feel like,
D-
they all have a personality though.
yeah. Dova
They've all
definitely
got a
has a
personality.
personality. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, he does some weird stuff sometimes. Sometimes he'll just sit there and like stare up at the blank wall, just looking at it. Like I'd like to go up there, but there's really no way to get there from here. Like that's what I imagine he's thinking. He's like, it'd be nice to go up there. He just stares at it. He's pretty vocal too for a cat, you know. And Basket is quiet for a dog.
Yeah, I kind of want to put them together and see what they
You
do.
see what? Yeah, kind of. I
Although I
think.
know what they would do because she would be like, "Hey, what's that? Is it one of those things?" Because I don't
Oh,
know if she's fully in love with the idea of cats because they try to take her eyes out and stuff.
Dova technically lived in the same house as a dog, but previously, but I don't think they ever really saw each other because he stayed in one room and the dog stayed in a different room.
Mhm.
I don't know if they ever crossed paths. I have no idea.
We'll never
Yeah.
know. Guess that's that.
I was gonna say, sounds like the end of an episode to me.
Sounds, yeah.
20 seconds of silence. That's how we end it.
And then we're gonna come back after the credits. There's a mid credit scene and an after credit scene.
Oh
You're
man,
gonna
those
get both.
Marvel movies are crazy nowadays.
It's the shows too now.
Yeah, that's right.